So, right on the heels of the ratification of the US Constitution comes the thinker Immanuel Kant, a German thinker. 1795, he pens A Perpetual Peace. It's a philosophical sketch of the most ideal form of government. So he's really asking the same question that the framers have. First of all, what is good? And most thinkers would be that human beings would rather be free than unfree, and they'd rather have safety than unsafety, or, they'd rather feel protected than exposed. So with some of these kind of common ground assumptions of what people would want from a political universe, Kant creates essentially a world federalism. He felt that each level of government, from the city to the state to the federal government to the regional government to the world government, each level could sort of be a protectorate of the other level. And so it's a tricky argument. And the reason that it involves abstraction, which the Federalists, represented by Hamilton and Madison, were good at using, was the idea that there'd be this double security or a triple security, that if the regional government somehow obstructed or interferes with your rights, you might go to the federal side or the city side, that there'd be these optimal governments. But the problem here is what the great thinkers that came up with the idea of Republican government recognized, that by its very definition, a world government, a one world system, is totalitarian. It is a totalizing form of government. There are no ways to truly put checks and pit one level of government against the other, because the larger form of government, the top layer, would always slowly, eventually subvert the rights and liberties of the individuals in the smaller forms of government. And please, if you need an example, look at the relationship of these states to the federal government over the last 200 years. It's somewhat of a mixed bag, but by and large, human liberties have been subverted, and the Constitution and constitutional protections have been subverted as power has moved from the state governments to the federal government. And people can argue that point, but I would like you to argue that empirically and demonstrate that as the federal government has usurped the power of the states, that in some way we are more free. I'd like you to define your terms if you want to argue that point. So what we have at hand here is the beginning of an empire project made possible by the framers of the US Constitution through the argument of Federalist number 10, that if we allow multiple levels of governments to exist alongside of each other or in relation to each other, perhaps one subservient to the other, that it will in fact be more safeguards upon the liberties. They abstracted and twisted the arguments for a Republican form of government that would be geographically small, turned them on their heads. And what I'm arguing here is that 1789 in the US Constitution, over the course of the next couple centuries, would make possible the argument for